You're gonna lose, yes, you lose that girl. The stars are 45, keep on turning in your mind. But we can work it out. Remember, twist the shout. You still not tell me why and no reply.
Dan Radio Style, and of course Agnes Radio Style at this particular point in time. But that stars on 45. Jaap Egermont, I think, is the guy that originally created that back in '81. But anyway, it's a bunch of Beatles songs put together, and I think that's where the guy that's Bee Gees in there going, stars on 45. Anyway, that's just this issue. My mom did not hug me enough. I'm sure of it. I'm positive. That's my problem. Anyways, Agnes Vivarelli. We're going to be talking about a great concept here, not sharing things with people when you're trying to manifest.
Yeah.
Ooh, is that a bad idea? So anyway, we got some cool stuff here. So what do you got to say there, Miss Vivarelli? Ms. Vivarelli.
Hello to you,
Hello.
Dan.
Hello.
I'm going to read today. There is a viewer request from Amy, and Amy has sent this saying. From my experience, I noticed that I had the most success in manifesting a specific person or a dream job when no one in this world knew what I was visualizing. And it's the only time I've had success. At the time, I started sharing my imaginary work with a friend who is also into this stuff, but quite pessimistic. Things started going down the road, and I can't manifest what I visualize as I could before. I read somewhere that you should never, under any circumstance, discuss your visualizations or imaginary scenes to other people because they energetically interfere with their consciousness or subconscious doubt, judgment, just being aware of your energetic work. Whenever I do something and share that work with someone, it just doesn't manifest. And whenever I kept it a secret, it happened. Is it okay to tell someone what you want your ex back or you would like someone, but reporting someone about the content of your visualizations and the time frames, even if the person isn't negative, is it just going to block everything? Legend always said, if you tell a birthday wish after you blow out the candles, it won't happen. Is this common? Have other people reported something like this to you? What is your opinion on this?
Now, before we get too far, I have to say this likens, in my opinion, to like talking about what you're trying to manifest is much like saying, there's no way that ship can sink. It's impossible. It could even hit an iceberg. Definitely not, without a doubt. But I want to, I think this is such an awesome topic.
Yeah.
It gets into a number of different genres, in my opinion, in this whole thing.
Yeah.
What do
you think about that? About sharing or not sharing?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's two sides of this that I thought were interesting. They talked about the pessimist for one.
Yeah.
Sharing with people that have an opinion at all, be it good or bad, can their opinions suddenly interject their questions that they ask you, and it's out of love in some cases. Maybe if they're nefarious or they don't want you to do this, they might ask bad stuff. But I'm talking about the good friend, even the one that you're talking to, that's the buddy.
Yeah.
And they ask you questions, and it's like, well, so what's going on? I thought you guys were going out. What happened? Well, he had to reschedule. Oh yeah, he had to reschedule, did he? Oh, I'm sure that's all that was, right? And now all of a sudden we've got all these questions in our minds. That's where the damage, I think, comes from, is when we start to question our own work, our own imaginal work, and those kinds of things. So that's one reason, for example, why I think talking about it with others can be bad, and that's even with someone I think that's close. What you've probably got plenty of examples as well in your world. Yeah,
I think I have one friend I share stuff with, but we've been doing the law of attraction together for about 28 years. So she knows the ins and outs of how I think. I know the ins and outs of how she thinks, and we do it together, and we don't share it with other people. But we have built up this long period of time of reading the same books, analyzing the same things, and we work together extremely well. And we often see things that the other one can't pick up for themselves because you're someone else's eyes.
Yeah.
So that is the only exception in my life.
beautiful exception, by the way, and I think brilliantly explained, because it's true. There are going, hopefully, there's going to be one, maybe two of those special people in our lives where we have that kind of relationship. It makes me think of one of my best friends when I was growing up. The two of us were learning meditation and stuff together, and we're just best friends, and that whole experience of being able to call someone up and share with them what's really going on in your world from your standpoint. They understand that you're, in my case, he's a little crazy, he believes in fairies and elves and stuff like that, watch out. But exactly, yeah. So he takes that into account, and he treats me as me, and it's beautiful when that
Just the
happens.
two of us. We can
Oh,
make it if we try.
damn straight.
Just the two of us. You're gonna have to
You
play
right
that
there.
one next show now.
Heck
That.
yeah, we'll have to get that one in there for sure. Now,
But
I do like how the lady was talking about how no one knows. She was saying something about like when no one knows. That's right. When no one is under the impression, when you don't talk about it, why is that so much better? Why? And I'll let you start on this first. I think but we covered it from the one angle, but let's be very specific and paint that with that brush. Why, in fact, is the opposite true when you don't talk about it? Why does it make it so much easier? Let's give some examples of that.
That's a good question. I think because when you're trying to manifest something, you still got wiggly legs about your ability to create it, especially in the very, very first incubation period. So if it's the first couple of weeks, first month, you're trying to imagine something that you've never had before. It takes time for it to feel natural and for you to bond with it. So if you share about that in that time, you're still yourself have got some doubts. And then what happens is, because of everyone as you pushed out, if you've still got some doubts or you're still trying to get strong in it, your little bit of doubt or your bit of is it going to happen goes out, and then your person, your friend, your whoever you've spoken to about it reflects that doubt back to you. And then what happens is you get pushed off course. You collapse into, oh, maybe they're right, and maybe this isn't going to happen, and maybe this isn't good for me. And then it's like you're still a raw pink nerve and someone stuck their fingers in it. So
I had a great friend that, literally this lady adored me, wanted to see me in a relationship more than life itself. Certainly wasn't fond of the choices I was making, but whatever. Was very supportive, cared about me a great deal, and was the same situation. It was just, no matter what, she was literally capable of bringing me from everything's really good, everything's great. We're getting there. I've had some great feedback. Things are happening. I'm getting all the indications. It feels great. Like, it's just awesome. I know this is happening. And then it whittled away quickly, like with a chainsaw, not even whittling, but literally just chopped it down to nothing in a matter of minutes, and walked away. And it took me days to get myself back to a good place. And I wallowed in that crappy feeling place for a while. It's not, she meant well. And again, I think in a lot of cases, because I think I think in a lot of cases, your one friend exception, maybe my one buddy exception, most friends mean well, but ask questions, but will be involved in ways that end up causing doubt, end up causing us to ask things that maybe 6 months ago we came to terms with, but they asked it in such a way that now all of a sudden we're like, oh man, it's really, that's a good question.
And often, Dan, too, they're projecting, their questions are coming from their negative experience about relationships, about jobs, about money. And it's that comes through in the comments that they make.
Right. Their doubt, their insecurity, their lack of, I hate to say the word that everyone hates, but their lack of self-love in some cases, they're not worthy, and now I just want to say one thing to everyone that's, and in a minute, I'm going to make you talk on you. So I'm going to take a side salad really quick, but so I don't know if you can see yourself, but I know your hair, but that chair or whatever that is behind you makes it look like you've got this wild, crazy hair going on with your hair. I know. That's rad. So like, ladies, I just want everyone to know she doesn't have wild, crazy cartoon hair. That's some sort of chair behind her.
I've always wanted an afro, and this is the closest I could get.
Bam! Look at that thing. Sorry. I didn't mean to take the focus.
No,
Gotta
I
love
actually
it.
did it on purpose. I'm glad you noticed.
Dude, you picked it out, didn't you? You broke out the pick, didn't you?
I
That is
did.
so awesome. Anyway.
Yep.
So again, sharing stuff, the reason we don't do it, the reason we try and get
Yes.
away from it, obviously not from the side salad, but is to kind of keep that extra interjection out of it.
Yep.
If you know how this stuff works, if you know what you're trying to accomplish, if you know that, by imagining this and living in the end and doing all these techniques, that I think Goddard illustrates beautifully, and then try to spend as much time in the vortex maybe as Hicks tries to talk about, right? And all these other people just staying nice and being good to people and blah, blah, blah. Pretty soon, you tend to accomplish what you want. When you let other people interject into that by talking to them, well, now all of a sudden you're asking questions and you're breaking up that flow that you were doing just fine yesterday.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you're what about the shoot, but that's not really true. It's just coincidence. That's my favorite word, by the way. Let's spend good side salad, coincidence. Like in my mind, that's basically the same thing as all the other words that we use. I don't know. What's your take on the word coincidence? Because a lot of people just poo-poo it often. Well, is it coincidence? I'm like, well, how's that any different? Like, you have 100 coincidences. At what point do you go, oh, okay, that's kind of interesting?
Yeah.
So
Well, I don't believe in coincidence.
With your giant afro hair, just curious.
With my giant afro hair.
Huge.
Actually, maybe I should turn it that way. It might be a little bit more believable.
Oh, bam. Oh, that is totally. You're like Sasquatch giving you a hug right now. That's rad. Oh, man.
Oh, it's so great.
This is why we do this.
This is my Airbnb. It just happens that the cushions are
that came free. You didn't have to pay extra for that.
No,
I would have thrown down an extra 10 euros. Just bam, bam. Give me that. Give me some of that Afro fro thing behind me.
Yeah, Afro fro.
Yeah, Afro. That's not,
what were we just talking about? Coincidence.
Coincidence, the word.
I
yes.
don't believe in it. If you're a conscious creator, coincidences are not a part of your realm. It's like you create stuff. So stuff happens and you go, wow, that was cool. That's amazing, the timing and the packaging in which that came. But it doesn't mean that it was a coincidence. To me,
so isn't a coincidence basically like just some random event that happens outside? But like, that's my point, is when 100 coincidences happen, is the definition of coincidence, do we need to look like, I don't know if you've seen the movie Princess Bride, but there was a guy that kept saying inconceivable over and over throughout the movie. And the things that were happening in the movie were like fully inconceivable. He kept like, or they were conceivable. It was the opposite, right? And so eventually this one guy's like, I do not think that word means what you think it means, and like just calls him out on it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think coincidence means what you think when it happens dozens of times every time I imagine this kind of stuff. And I guess that's where I think it's funny to me. It's like, all right, you can call, that whatever you want. It still smells like a rose.
Yeah.
I think it's a rose.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a side salad for sure. But the word comes up a lot. A lot of people think, it's just a coincidence. It's like,
and if people believe in coincidences, well, then that.
And I don't either. I do agree that I think it's a dirty word.
I like seeing it as wow, I'm getting better at consciously creating, and these moments of fabulous energy lining up with something that I want is happening to me more and more. That's how I would see it.
And I can see why people would shorten that to like coincidence. I mean, because that's like, right? I mean, versus it's a marketing word, and when you got to pay by the letter, sometimes you just lump it down to a shorter word. I'm just saying, but it's printing companies are jerks.
Yeah.
So good. So that's why we don't share our stuff with other people. Yeah. Now, I will say, and I think this is kind of one of the key things to really drive home at this point anyway, what we focus on, right? So when people force us to think about the questions we have or the doubts we have, so they might say, well, you sure he just rescheduled because of that? You sure he's actually interested and he's not just leading you along? And then now all of a sudden you're going down this, man, maybe he's leading me along. When you're focused on that, maybe he's leading me along thought process, you're now putting energy towards that. Your vibration, you're feeling it. Feels nasty. It feels gross. You're like, I don't feel good. That's how you know you're going down a bad path. So again, why do we think it's not a good idea to necessarily share with other people? Well, like what you focus on. That's kind of where you go. So I just, let's get the Agnes version of that.
Yeah, I agree, Dan. I think what you focus on is what you bring in because it's a focus-based universe. So if you're going to focus on what was the word that guy used in that movie?
Oh, Inconceivable.
Inconceivable.
It's Princess Bride, by the way. Great movie. Great movie.
Inconceivable. But was that said in a positive connotation?
No, he kept like this Dread Pirate Roberts. It's such a great movie. If you ever get a chance to watch it, seriously,
Yeah.
it's a classic. Billy Crystal's in it. There's some great cast.
Okay.
Andre the Giant, like a lot of really, really cool people. Anyway, the Spaniard guy is awesome. He's like looking back, and this Italian Sicilian guy is like looking back, and the Dread Pirate Roberts is still following him. He's like, inconceivable. And the Spaniard looks at him and goes, I do not think that word means what you think it means. You know, it just right there. It's like calls him out because everything he keeps saying is inconceivable. It's like he's doing it. Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that doesn't mean right for you. Like, you know, anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a great word.
I think if you're seeing it in a positive context, you know, inconceivable, like the most inconceivable things I thought were inconceivable are now happening to me.
Well, it's like Wayne Dyer says, believing in miracles, right? Like, yeah, totally. I mean, I think the concept of something crazy needs to happen. Well, yeah, something
that like the known. I remember this affirmation I used to say years ago, and it was from Florence Scovel Shinn, that things come to me from known or unknown channels, and the unknown channels is the inconceivable realm. It's the stuff you can't imagine, the things that are beyond what you can even conjure up to believe today. So it opens up the trap door.
We're getting into some of my favorite stuff when you bring into that, because that is when, in my opinion, life takes on a whole new hue, like a whole new color, because you start to realize that every moment of every day I'm playing a part in this with other people and them with me. And when you understand how easy that ebb and flow works and you watch it for a few days, just literally watch it, like watch yourself as a third party for a couple days.
Yeah.
The timing, the way it works out.
Yeah.
And you will sit there literally and just be in awe. And it will help, in my opinion, with the questioning, because you see it in action. You finally are paying attention to how things tend to play out, the timings. For me, I think that was one of the big ones, the timings. How
the timings, yes.
Perfectly you could bump into somebody in some random fashion, some random place. That still blows my mind. If anything, that to me is huge proof around the coincidence.
Yes, yes. You know, Dan, I remember I'd come out of my marriage and I was still really struggling with emotional stuff, and
I want to say which one, but I know it sounds rude, but it's because I know there's been more than one.
Yeah, the marriage, there was only one marriage. So my husband at the time.
Was there just one relationship?
There was more than one relationship.
Okay, that's where it was. I thought there's multiple marriages. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
multiple marriages.
See, that's me that doesn't know people. That's Dan radio style for you.
See, that's good. So that's clarified now.
Radio
for anybody that thought there was more than one, there's only one. So I'd be walking to and from work, and it was probably about half an hour to walk. And I used to say this affirmation: the unexpected happens, my seemingly impossible good now comes to pass. And this was about, I just wanted something to happen that would make me feel better, something that would happen that would just give me like, wow, this world is amazing. And I can remember that it's amazing because I was feeling
something
like
impossible.
And I was feeling totally unamazing at the time. So this random woman rings me. I was working at the time I was working in some restoration place. It was a home restoration place. And my background was in candles and homewares, but mainly in candles manufacturing and also working in a candle shop. So at the time I was saying this affirmation, the unexpected happens, my seemingly impossible good now comes to pass. I was saying it for 30 minutes each way. So I was doing this one affirmation for an hour a day. And it ended up that this woman rings me. She had contacted my work and found out my name. And she rings me and she said, look, I want to open up a candle shop in Sydney. I know nothing about it. My partner has left me. He's died. He's left me all this money. And I want to put the money that he's left into this candle store. So we have a conversation over the phone, and I never met her. And after that one conversation, she made a decision to fly me from Sydney to Melbourne, which is only an hour's flight, to go to this big trade show. I was going to do all the buying for her shop. And she gave me, this budget for the entire store. She paid all my accommodation. She paid all my meals. She paid, everything else I needed while I was there. And we literally met the day that we flew to this place, apart from the conversation that we had on the phone. So it was so unexpected that my seemingly impossible good now came to pass. And it was so much fun. I spent a whole weekend down there. I was still suffering from heartbreak. It took my mind totally off myself. I had an amazingly fun, creative time. And after that, I never saw that woman again.
Really?
We had contact via like one email. And I said to her, look, if you need me again, let me know. She never needed me again. She never called me again. The job was done. So that was the first unexpected thing that happened. And then not long after, it was 2 to 3 weeks after, this guy I knew who was a multimillionaire contacted me, and he flew me to the top of Australia, which was, I think, probably about a 3 or 4 hour flight away. And he wanted help with doing the interiors. He wanted interiors advice. He bought this whole block of flats. He was going to split them up and sell them individually. And he wanted interiors advice for the flat. So he paid for all my accommodation, all my meals, and all this stuff. And at that time, I was so poor, like really had no money. I was in debt. I was doing the law of attraction, but I was still in a complete mess.
It was early with it, yeah.
But these two things really showed me that doing that one affirmation to open up the realm of really working with, as we're talking about coincidences or the unexpected channels or all that stuff, that amazing things can happen if you really start to open up and believe in it. And even when you're suffering, because I was like a 2 out of 10 at that point, a 3 out of 10. Some nights I was still crying in my bedroom or in my hotel room. And then I'd, wake up, throw some water on my face, and then go and do the job I had to do for that day with her. Because I think we were there 2 or 3 days, and I was doing the buying for her 2 or 3 days in a row. So I had to get my act together and focus and be present. But it took my mind off myself. It took my mind off my heartbreak. It took my mind, and I was doing something I loved. So yeah, that was one experience that was, I will never forget it, because it was one of the first experiences I've had of becoming a conscious creator with a very general umbrella affirmation. It wasn't, specific. It was like really opening up to anything.
And what I think is super powerful about that, and you didn't intend to illustrate this, but you did it so beautifully, I think it'd be silly not to bring it up, is a lot of people talk about when they're going through breakups or going through hard times in relationships. What do I do? How do I get through this? How do I move my way through this?
Yeah.
And just like what you said, it's that focusing on my life, on what I'm trying to do, on what I'd like to accomplish in my own world, on what I'm trying to manifest in my own life. That is a great example, and one of many, of self-love, of truly loving yourself, is being focused on your path, your goals, your life, your whatever, like whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And I think your definition was brilliant in kind of just talking about, one, how, yes, when I'm trying to manifest these affirmations and believing in the impossible and kind of just keep going down that this can happen, anything can happen. And I've talked about it before on other shows of mine where, is to some people it sounds impossible, and to me it's just like, no, but all I got to do is meet that one person that can open the door for me. That in my mind is not a big deal. That's just one person. I bump into people all the time. What's one person? Big whoopee. Yeah. So exactly. It's that believing in the open possibilities. And you, to kind of circle this full all the way back around, you might talk to friends, you might communicate with others, and they might have their own opinions on how the impossible happens. Maybe they don't believe in it. Maybe they don't think it's possible. And so thusly they're going to offer you all sorts of, quote, facts about how the impossible cannot happen.
Yeah. And for them, that will be their experience.
Yep. Yeah. And if you believe their experience as well, then that will be yours, because what you believe is your limiting thoughts, is your limiting understanding of things. And that's why, exactly, when you talk to people and give them the chance to let them influence your beliefs, now all of a sudden You're in
Yeah.
dangerous waters. Look
Yeah.
at that. We actually kind of, I think, fully covered a circle. I'm so side salad master. I did good today.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Better.
And sometimes it just needs to be short and sweet and
It
straight to
does.
the point, because I think this one thing is so untapped by a lot of people. They just want what they want and they want to get from here to there. And that's fine to want what you want. You know, you and I have things like that too. But it's really saying, okay, there's so much more beyond my wants. And can I be spending a little bit of time to be open to that, and then launching that, and then creating from that? And that was in the 90s for me. Like, that was such a beginning, that was a
Wait.
real beginning exercise for me, because I was so
The world was black and
shattered.
white back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was flat too, I think.
Flat and black and white, yet we still walked uphill everywhere we went. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, horse and cart too. I didn't have a car.
Oh gosh, yeah, I remember
Yeah.
the horses. Had relationships with our cars. Horses. We called them cars, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I agree. I think that
yeah.
whole a lot of people, I think this gets lost on the times during the day when we have conversations with other people where we start talking about how he's so and so, how he's such and such, how she doesn't do this or he doesn't do that, or we don't understand that those conversations get us into a mindset, into a thinking pattern, into a belief set that does more damage in our manifesting than we realize. And a lot of people don't see it when they do it. And that's that whole, the second you start noticing where you're doing it, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so mad with myself. I catch myself. I've done it 4 times today. It's like, yes, but you saw yourself do it finally.
Yeah.
You can do something about it when you finally see it.
Yep.
So for some people, this is going to be disturbing because they're going to be like, oh my God, I do this all the freaking time. It's okay. That's okay. Now you know. Now you see it. Now you understand what you've been doing to yourself. And now you understand what you can do to change that, to make it better.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Agnes, you bring magic to the table. I love that about you.
Oh, Dan.
Right?
Now, you know that people are now going to say, why don't you two get together after that comment?
Well, we need to, obviously. No question about it. I mean, Australia, she's only, I don't know, like 10 to 12,000 kilometers away from me or something like that.
Not much.
Really close. I'm going to start walking tonight, by the way, so I'll probably see you in a few days. Mate.
Oh, yeah, you know,
right?
A few days and maybe a few months. You're going to practice collapsing space and time, because we talked about that at one.
All I got to do is just, I've worked with Einstein. I'm very fond of Nikola Tesla. I've studied these guys. I can totally collapse space-time. It'll be fine. I'll just walk out, bloop, right in, and you'd be like, holy shit, Dan, how'd you do that? And I know. I've been working on it for a few months. Pretty tight.
That's it.
Nice. So I wanted to go out on
before I go, my mum's here, so she's gonna enjoy, because she really loved you and loved watching the show that we did. She'll have to head off, so I'm gonna show.
Does she want to like introduce? Do we want to meet her right now?
No, she's in another room. She's watching TV. She's waiting for me to go to the organic market, so we're gonna go.
Well, who's not waiting for you to go to the organic market? I was.
We need some organic weird.
Well, some of those blueberries for sure. Those are really good. If you can get some of those, fantastic. Maybe a little romaine lettuce might be nice.
Romaine lettuce. Ooh, I'll look for that.
Well, if I got it, I mean, I'm just
is that the curly one?
Yeah, it's curly. Yes, it is a little more like the flatter, kind of like a big tongue, like a cow's tongue. Almost.
Ah, that one. Okay.
Yeah. It is kind of curly though, too.
Yeah.
Curly lettuce. I don't know if I've ever. So anyway, we're going to go out with a good song, because we're doing a radio style this time. We're doing a little different.
Yeah, nice.
Going out with Dusty Springfield, Wishin' and Hopin'. It's right here in Dan and Agnes radio style. Agnes Vivarelli, of course.
Planning and dreaming each night of his charms that won't get you into his arms. So if you're looking to find love, you can share. All you gotta do is hold him and kiss him and love him and show him that you care.
Beautiful.
There we go. Nice. Now it's just an easy trim.
Good to see you, Dan.
You too. I hope you have a good one. I hope you feel better. You sound actually pretty good now that you're hatching a little bit there.
I feel a bit better now. Just really
Good.
croaky in the morning.
And that thing behind you is funny as hell. It does. The whole time it's been distracted. It looks like you just have this giant, like, lion's mane of dark hair.
I know. My goodness. This Airbnb has got so much luxury stuff compared to my flat in London.
Nice.
It's just beautiful. So I feel very, very grateful. It's gorgeous. Nice. Like everything's kind of old, recycled antiques and lovely old rugs. And, you know, it's an old warehouse that's been converted into 3 flats. And it's got all the features of the old warehouse, which is, I love it.
Cool.
It said on Airbnb, artsy warehouse conversion. I thought, right, I want to stay there.
Sweet.
So I brought my mum down for a week and she's staying with me. So
nice.
Yeah, a bit of mum time. And we're going to go, she loves organic food. So we're going to go and check that out now.
When you think of home, what's home to you now?
Look, I'm split in two. Really.
Is Australia home though? I mean, because you're like French, you're
France
English,
is my roots. France is my roots. London is my heart. Sydney's my home. So